What witchcraft did you put in these pages? Hello, my book babes. Welcome to end of the year book tag, courtesy of book bestie Larry. I do not actually know Larry, but I love her content and she just seems like she's an incredible human being, and she invited YouTubers to use the questions that she used in her book tag. So all of the questions I'm about to go through, you can find them on her YouTube page as well if you want to recreate this video. And she put them on a list. I'll put them in the list down below as well, but they're from Larry. Larry was somebody who inspires me a lot in my content. So just thank you, Larry, for being you. You're awesome. Okay, so we're just gonna dive into it. These are just questions about books that we've read this year and what our thoughts are. I did do like a book superlative thing. So my only rule I made for myself was that I could not repeat answers that I did in my book superlative, because that would just be redundant and a waste of your time if you've already watched that video. So we're just gonna dive right into it. The best recommendation I got this year. Okay, I picked two. Heated Rivalry and Once Upon a Broken Heart. Were these like the most incredible, absolutely like jaw-dropping books I read this year? No. Were they awesome? Absolutely yes. Would I recommend them to you? Yes, 100%. The reason I picked these for two different reasons. This one, Heated Rivalry, is a male-male romance, and this is the first male-male romance I have ever read. So I love that this has kind of opened a whole new door into a subgenre of romance for me. It was just an important read for me this year. And then also kind of the same thing with Once Upon a Broken Heart. No, this is not male-male romance, but it is young adult. And this was like one of the only young adult books that I read this year. So I feel like this is opening the door to another genre for me that I'd kind of been neglecting. That's why I picked both of these, because in 2026, I'm wanting to read more of both of these genres. I felt like it was important that I read them this year. Most disappointing book of the year. Let me just say, I did not really read a lot of books this year that I didn't really like. And I did cover most disappointing in my book superlative, so I picked two different ones. And it's gonna be The Inadequate Heir and The Endless War. Is that the order that they go in? I've confused myself. The Inadequate Heir is 3, and then The Endless War is 4. This is part of like kind of the Bridge Kingdom series. Bridge Kingdom and The Traitor Queen can be read as a duology. And then these books take place almost at the same time as those books do. I have an itch. But from different characters' perspectives, so you get different stories. And I loved The Bridge Kingdom and The Traitor Queen, and so I was really excited to pick up these, and I just didn't vibe with them as much. They weren't bad, they just weren't, you know, giving me what The Bridge Kingdom gave me, so I was a little bit disappointed by that. So on the flip side, what was an underdog book you read this year? It's gonna be The Bridge Kingdom. I loved this book. This was a 5-star book for me, so was The Traitor Queen. I have owned this book for so long. It's been sitting on my TBR, and I finally picked it up this year, and I was kind of shocked by how much I loved it. I thought this was so good. This follows Aaron and Lara is kind of sent to invade Aaron's kingdom by way of like being his bride. So that's kind of all I want to give you. You should go into this. I went into this relatively blind, and it was so good. The end of the first chapter, I had my jaw like on. I was like, what? I have to know what happens right now. What was an overhyped book you read? Hear me out, okay? One Dark Window. Now, before you get mad, okay, I gave it 4 stars. It's just the way people talk about it. I thought I was gonna be like ravenous for it, like 5-star, infinity star read. And instead I was just like, oh, this was good. You feel me? Like it wasn't giving what I expected it to give. So for me, it was just a little bit overhyped, and I could feel myself like wanting to rate it higher, but not because that I felt like it should be rated higher, but because I had all the opinions in my ear about it being so good. So I gave it 4 stars. I think I also gave Two Twisted Crowns 4 stars as well. It wasn't bad. Again, it's just something that I felt like was a smidgen overhyped. On the flip side, a book that surprised you, The Night and the Moth. I love how so far these have been like the same authors for like kind of 2 different sides of the coin. The Night and the Moth surprised me because I didn't really love One Dark Window. The Night and the Moth took me completely by surprise because I was ravenous for that book. I devoured it. It was so freaking good, and I cannot wait for the sequel. I do love that Rachel Gillig does duologies. That to me is really nice as somebody who gets a little bit of like series fatigue. So duologies, we love. It still gives that like kind of gothic feel, but this was giving more like gothic cathedral, and One Dark Window gives more like gothic castle, if those are gonna be like themes. if you pick up what I'm throwing down there. If you've read the book, you know Bartholomew. You love Bartholomew. We love Bartholomew here. My favorite book couples. I had a lot of book couples this year that I was just like, oh my God, I love them. I picked two. Again, I did cover this question in my book superlatives, so I picked two different couples from the ones that I listed there. My favorite book couples are going to be Deanne and Luther from the Spark of the Everflame series, and also Alara and Enzo from Heavenly Bodies and Fallen Stars. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I absolutely love both of the romances in this. My God, if you want a slow burn, pick up Spark of the Everflame. Okay, because like, damn, the burn is slow. Like you're trying to light a match like for the whole first and almost all of the second book. Definitely pick that one up if you like are a slow burn romance fan. Alara and Enzo from Heavenly Bodies. Heavenly Bodies and Fallen Stars are just some of my absolutely god tier reads of the year. So is Spark of the Everflame. Fallen Stars was somehow like better than Heavenly Bodies, and I was like, how'd you do that? What witchcraft did you put in these pages? Because it was so freaking good. My favorite main characters of the year. Again, this is a question that I covered in my book superlative, so I picked two other main characters because my God, there were just so many. Like I love my female main characters. They're incredible. The female main characters I picked for this question are Scarlet from Lady of Darkness and Magnolia from Magnolia Parks, which I think is something of a hot take. Most of the people I've seen are like Daisy fans. I thought Magnolia was fucking hilarious. Like I was like, Magnolia, you make me giggle. And I can see how people are obsessed with you. Everything good? Keo? Distraction in the shape of a puppy. So my favorite main characters of the year, Scarlet from Lady of Darkness and Magnolia from Magnolia Parks. Scarlet is just such a complex character, and she really just goes through such an interesting like character arc and journey, and she really, I was gonna say traverses some tough emotions, but that's not exactly the right word I want to use. She experiences a lot of different depths of emotion, and I just thought her character was very beautifully written, and so is her love story as well. And then Magnolia, I feel like liking Magnolia is something of a hot take. I don't really know. A lot of people seem to not like her. I love her. I thought she was freaking hilarious. She's funny. Magnolia's funny. Like, if you've read that book and you think Magnolia's funny, I'm like, how? She made me giggle so many times. I love Daisy too. Don't get me wrong. I love them both. I just really found myself like kikiing at Magnolia's lines repeatedly while I read the book. And I just feel like she's somebody that I would want to know. Like in the books, how everybody's kind of obsessed with her. I'm like, yeah, I get it. I'm kind of obsessed with her. Like she seems like she's an icon. New favorite author you discovered this year is going to be Melissa K. Vorich. She's an autobi author for me now. I am absolutely obsessed. I read Lady of Darkness by her and also the Legacy series, which is one of my god tier series of the year. Like speechless. Like I got a Legacy series tattoo. Like that is how much I am obsessed with that series. She's coming out with a new series in February and I'm so excited. I can't wait. I had the pleasure of meeting her in person. I went to like a book convention. Gosh, my bangs are doing something that I don't like. Ugh, somewhat better. I had the pleasure of meeting Melissa at a signing convention this year, and she was so nice. And like we just like giggled and kikied together, and she's very kind, and I love her writing, and she's an autobi author for me now. On the flip side, an author that didn't work out for you this year. I read two books by Laura Pavlov. I just didn't love them. They were just okay. You know what I mean? I read one and then I thought, okay, maybe this is something that like was one of her earlier works. And so then I picked up another one and I was like, nope, still not loving it. I felt like there were like gaps in the writing. Like the characters would be in one place in the room and then all of a sudden they'd be somewhere else in the room and there wouldn't be like the connection of like how did they get from point A to point B, which would just screw with my mind because when I read, I picture the scenes. So if you don't connect the dots for me, then I get hung up on like, wait, they were just on the left side of the room and now you're telling me they're in a window on the right side of the room, but there was nothing about them like walking across the room. It's just like they apparated from one spot to the other. If that is not something that bothers you in writing, like if you can just get over that, then you might enjoy it. I just noticed it in both books and both times it like would take me out of the plot. I read two books by her. I read Into the Tide and then I also read Always Mine and I gave both of them 2.5 stars, which like Normally I give books anywhere from like 3.5 to 5 stars. So 2.5 for me is that's kind of low. What is the happiest book you read this year? I picked two, and ironically, both of them were hockey romances. I picked Spiral and Fall With Me. And both of them just left me with like the butterflies. You know, Fall With Me actually made me cry like a happy tears while I was reading it, which has never happened to me before while I was reading a hockey romance. So it had to win the title of happiest book of the year. What is the saddest book you read this year? Well, that's gonna have to be Alchemist. The way this book ended just left me with so many emotions, and I was like devastated for these characters, even though that their story ended in somewhat of a happy way. Just the legacy that they left behind was just, after everything they went through, shocking. So this one just left me with like my jaw on the ground and like tears streaming down my face, even though the characters technically got a happy ending. I really don't know how to explain that. If you've read it, you probably get it. You're like, yeah, I understand what you're saying. But if you haven't read it, you're like, Chris is crazy. Literally, how is it the saddest book you read if the characters had a happy ending? This is my experience. Okay. What was the most frustrating book you read this year? Well, that's also going to be Magnolia Parks. And I'm kind of cheating here because I didn't really give this a category on my superlatives, but the reasoning is the same. Because this book, I finished it and I literally called my mom and ran her through the whole plot because I was like so frustrated. I was like,
this character did something to this other character and I don't understand why. What an asshole.
Like, I had to run her through the whole plot. Like, some of my friends had just done something, like, and I was trying to process it. It was incredible. Don't get me wrong. Frustrated does not mean I didn't like it. I loved it. This is 5 stars. But I was still just like, what the fuck? Like, the way I almost like chunked like at a wall when I finished it. Yeah. The best book adaptation of the year. For me, it's going to be The Summer I Turned Pretty. Hear me out, okay? Because I know that the TV show did not really follow the books. It's been many moons since I read the books, but I can even kind of remember that the TV show took a bit of a left turn. Or at least I think it did. Again, it's been so many years since I read that book. For me, I think I loved the TV show more than I loved the books, which is something that doesn't happen to me very often. Most of the time it's the opposite. I love the books more than I love the TV show or the movie. But I just loved the way that they changed some of these characters just a little bit for the TV show. Like Taylor in the books was insufferable. She was a terrible friend. Now, don't get me wrong, she has her flaws. She's a human being, but I enjoyed her character so much more in the TV show than I did in the books. And there were just a couple other things like that. Like in the books too, Belly, I think, is like 15, I think, in book 1. So there are a lot of things that Belly does that just read as being very young. Even for a young adult book, I found myself getting like frustrated with her because when I read this, I think I was probably like 14 or 15 myself. And I was like, Belly, why are you doing that? And I know she does some things in the TV show. She's Belly. We love her. But I just found her character read as very young and immature. And in the book, in the TV show, I feel like they did a good job of having her still be young and like make those mistakes, but having it be less frustrating at the same time. My favorite cover of the year absolutely goes to Shield of Sparrows. Also the Straight Edge. So this book was very good. I cannot wait for the sequel. This was kind of one of those books where I saw it and I'd seen some stuff about it on Instagram and TikTok, of course, because, you know, like I'm a human being with social media. But it was one of those ones where I saw the cover and I was like, oh, interesting. What are you about? You know, like, do you need to come home with me? Kind of a situation. And boy, oh boy, am I glad I picked it up. This was like a very surprising read to me with how much I loved it. What is a book that you haven't stopped thinking about? Well, that's going to be The Ascended. Because what do you mean? The ending. What do you mean? And what do you mean that the sequel, I don't even know when the sequel's coming out. The next book that comes out in like these interconnected worlds is part of the Riftborn trilogy. I need to know what happens, like I need my next breath. So you have the Esprithian trilogy and then I forget what this duology is called, but this one is going to be a duology. In my personal opinion, you should read Riftborn, then Duskbound, then this one. The ending to this one hits so much more significantly if you have read Riftborn and Duskbound first. If you read this one first and then you read Riftborn, well, then the ending to Riftborn's gonna hit. But I think that the ending to this one is more powerful. So I'm just gonna need you to trust me on that. Also, that's the order the authors recommend. So you're not only trusting me, you're trusting the authors. If you haven't read that whole world, I really would recommend it. Again, I haven't stopped thinking about it because my jaw was on the floor. I was flabbergasted. Also, I mean, this one has trials, which I know some people are like, oh my God, another fantasy book with trials. But no, okay? The trials in this one, I actually was like, are they gonna make it? Yeah. Read it. Okay. What's an unpopular book that you loved? I picked this one because from what I've seen, people seem to be very divided on it. People either love it or they hate it. So I picked Spark of the Everflame. I loved this book. I thought this was incredible. People complain about the female main character. There's stuff that happens in the book that you as a reader are like, damn, get with it, girl. Like you can see it. And she's like, huh, weird, you know? But it's a book. And I think she has very valid reasons for not seeing the things that to the reader is very obvious. I personally, I like my characters to be human beings, and I like them to be flawed, and I think it makes the reading more interesting. So again, this is just one that I've seen people be very divided on, but I love this whole series. I gave the whole series 5 stars. So again, if you like a slow burn. Okay, then on the flip side of the coin, we have a popular book that you didn't love, and that's gonna be Metal Slinger. And I mean, I did tab it. Like, I read the shit out of this thing. And I was kind of vibing with it. It probably would have been a 4-star. And then we got to the plot twist that everybody freaking raves about. And for me, it just wasn't believable. My problem with this book is that it takes place from first person, and the way that the plot twist reveals itself, I'm like, is she supposed to be an unreliable narrator? Because if she is, then okay. But I just felt like since we were in her head, there were some things that I was like, she just outright lied to you about, which made the plot twist for me kind of frustrating because I was like, there were no breadcrumbs, if that makes sense. I like plot twists that maybe you kind of suspect something is coming, but you can't quite put it together yourself. For me, the plot twist in this was just completely out of left field. I was like, huh! You know, plot twist. Will I read the second one? Maybe. I'm a little bit on the fence about that. I do think that the book could be saved, maybe, in my opinion, like from what I think of it in the second one. Again, though, this is something of a hot take. People read this book and they love it. They love it. So for me, the plot twist just really like, just for me, it was out of nowhere. But that's my opinion. Book that you thought you loved but didn't. I read the Avalon Tower series this year, and it's not that I hated it. It's just that when I was a kid, I was something of a like Arthurian legend nerd. Like I went through a really Arthurian legend phase. So I was like, oh, Avalon Tower. Like this is like about the Pendragons, you know? We've got like Arthurian lore in this book. So I thought I was going to be like super like rabid about it. And I just was like, oh no, it was good. Would it be at the top of my personal recommendations? Probably not. But I mean, it was good. You know, it was decent. Also, another book I thought I would love but didn't is going to be Comeback by Rebecca Jinshak. I read, oh shoot, what was that book called? I read Playbook by Rebecca Jinshak last year, and that was a 5-star read for me. I loved it so much. It's football romance, and it's just, it started out with a really funny premise. This woman is getting this football player's fan mail. Like she took over his P.O. box, and so she is getting mail that's supposed to be being sent to him, and like some woman keeps sending him like her underpants, and that's how the book starts. Is like she's super pissed because she's like, can you put a forwarding address on your P.O. box, please? Because I keep getting people's underwear sent to me. And that was just so funny to me, like such a funny way to open a story. And the story just was really good from there. So I was really excited for Comeback because that takes place from the male main character in Playbook, his like adopted brother kind of. It takes place from his point of view. So I was super excited about it. And also the female main character was like a dancer, and I used to dance some. So I always love when the female main characters are dancers. And it just fell a little bit flat for me. And I was like super excited for it. And I was like, it was like a 3-star. I went from like a 5-star read for the first one to a 3-star to the second one. The book with the most unique concept you read this year. Okay, well that's going to be A Vow and Vengeance. And again, I'm kind of cheating. I did mention this one in my book superlatives, but I wanted to mention it again because I actually read this as an art copy. I like won an art copy at one of the local bookstores here. And this was the first tarot card magic system book I read. I ended up reading One Dark Window and Arcana Academy after I read this one. And this kind of ruined other tarot card magic books for me because I loved the way it was done in this book specifically. It was so good. This book comes out in mid-January. If you don't have this on your TBR, please add it to your TBR and thank me later. It was so good. I think initially I gave this book 4.5 stars, but the way that I still think about it, it's a 5-star read. Absolutely. So add this to your TBR and let's chat about it in January because it was so good. It was just, the tarot card magic system to me is unrivaled, unmatched. So yeah. Book that you read this year that you would reread. Well, that's going to be Rose and Chains and also Direbound because both of these books have sequels coming out this year. So I will be rereading them so I can be fully prepared for the sequels because they were both so freaking good. I loved them so much. This was like my first Hermione inspired book that I had read and wow, it did not disappoint. Very good. Check your triggers. Darker, but so freaking good. And then Direbound, just okay. Let me just give you this little amuse bouche so you can be excited to read it if you have not. Okay, on the first page, we have these lines. Confidence makes men sloppy, and sloppy men are easy targets. And that was the kind of energy that I want to bring to the function. Yes, yes. Marin is just she's a badass FMC if I ever did say one. It was a good time. What is the priority read for next year? And I mean, like, this is the book. Oh, quick, what is a priority read of mine in 2026? And by priority read, I mean, I'm trying to time my reading schedule so that I am able to pick this book up on January 1st. And that's going to be Red Rising. I bought this book probably back in like October. And it's been like, Kristen, the whole freaking year. So I am very excited to read this. It's going to be one of my first sci-fi books that I think I've ever read. And my husband and I are going to read this together. So he's going to do the audio and I'm going to do the physical copy. And I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be, I don't want to say a good time because people act like this book devastates them. But it's going to be, a time will be had. You feel? Reflect on your Goodreads 2025 goal and then what's your reading goal for 2026. This year I read 105 books and I think originally I had set my goal as like 50. I never like to set my goal too high because I don't want to be like beating myself up for not meeting it. So I would rather set it lower and be like,
oh my god, look at me, I read so many books.
Than be like,
oh my god, I have to read 100 books this year because that's my Goodread goal.
I'm very competitive like with myself. I think for this coming year, I'm going to set it to like 75. So higher than 50, but I just don't want to set it to 100 because I don't want to like set myself up to be like beating myself up about not meeting my reading goal. 75 is probably going to be where I'm at. A book that I wish I got to this year is going to be City of Bones, the Shadowhunters universe. I bought this book, I think, early December, and just all out of nowhere, I was just kind of like, this series is calling to me. I actually read the original trilogy way back when it was first published, like in 2007. Technically, the first 3 books in this will be a reread, but I never read any of the other books in the universe. So I'm very excited to just like dive into this world. I remember loving the original trilogy, so I think it's just so exciting that there's like a whole universe a whole Shadowhunter universe to explore now. I can't wait. What will you prioritize in your 2026 reading year? First, I want to prioritize honoring my mood reading heart because I'm a mood reader and I have come to realize that if I make a list of books, especially if I make like a TBR list, no one is holding a gun to my head and telling me that I have to stick to the list that I made. Okay, like if I want to deviate, I can deviate. So that's just something that I want to be more cognizant of is that, okay, if you made a list, but you don't feel like reading this all of a sudden, you don't have to. Nobody's telling you have to. Also, I want to read different genres. I picked up one thriller mystery book this year, The Only One Left by Riley Sager, which I ended up really loving. So I want to pick up more like thriller mysteries. I picked up young adult. I picked up male romance. I'm starting my year with sci-fi. So I really just want to expand my horizons a little bit and not just stay in my romantasy bubble, which don't get me wrong, it's a great bubble, but I don't want to burn myself out on romantasy either. And then also I want to work on discovering books on my own. Don't get me wrong. I love BookTok. I love Bookstagram. I love BookTube. But there is something magical about walking into Barnes & Noble or walking into a bookstore and like just picking up a book and being like, what's this about? And then absolutely falling in love. So I want to just make sure that I'm going to the bookstore, not only being like, oh, okay, I saw all these books on Instagram or Book Talk, I want to buy them. I want to make sure I'm also just browsing just for me, if that makes sense. Reading goals for 2026. I really, really want to prioritize finishing series that I start. That was probably something that I was terrible at this year. I don't even want to think about the number of series that I'm in the middle of. So I want to really work on, okay, if I pick up a series, giving myself like a month to finish said series. Because first of all, if I put too long between the books, I start to forget things. I'm like, wait, who are you? What's happening? And then it feels like I just have to reread the whole series again, which I have so many books on my TBR that I want to get to, that just feels like that's not going to happen. I want to just work on being like, okay, you're going to pick up this series, maybe like give yourself a book break in between, like something small to like split up the series so I don't get too like series fatigued. That is a term that I believe that I coined. I want to make sure that I am not just like in the middle of 15, 20 different series, that I'm actually reading them all the way through. Assuming that there's series I want to finish. Obviously there can be series that I want to set down, DNF, but if it's a series I want to finish, I want to make sure I'm like, okay, you started this series, you've got them up. And then what are your goals for your book content in 2026? Since I just started this YouTube account, like, subscribe, do all the things. I want to try to find a good posting schedule, so I'm thinking either once a week or every other week. I am a fashion major, I'm back to school, and I'm in my last semester, which is like the big like fashion show semester, so my time is going to be kind of spread thin. So I'm just going to try to see what I can accomplish there. And then really my main goal is just to have fun with content. I do not want this to feel like that's something that's a chore or something that I'm like, oh my God, have to film the book content, because I love talking about books and I love making friends who like to talk about books. So I really just want to make sure that I'm approaching this with the mindset of like, this is fun. And so far it's been really fun. So hopefully that just continues. So that is the book tag. That's all the questions. I know you're like, my God, she can talk, she can yap. And yes, I can. That's why I started a YouTube channel. So I could just yap, and not be constricted to a certain timeline. I almost said time minutes. This makes no sense. That's my book tag. That's kind of a rundown of a lot of the books that I absolutely loved this year. I did do that book superlative video, which kind of covers more of my like God tier series. So if you want to watch that one as well, just so you know all of my book tastes for the year. But that's it. Thank you guys for sitting with me and hanging out with me. I'm so glad that you're here. And if you've read any of these books, or if you have thoughts about any of these books, I would love to discuss. Quite literally why I'm here. So, okay, great. Love you.